From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is SportsBash, presented by TicketBash.com. TicketBash.com, where memories are made affordable and where you'll never pay a service fee. SportsBash is also presented by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service, keeping Long Island warm for over 18 years, serving their customers in Nassau and Suffolk with pride, honesty, and integrity. For more information, visit www.liboilers.com. SportsBash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention SportsBash, get a free dessert with your meal. Heads up to Gus and everybody. We sent 3 people over there just a few minutes ago. SportsBash is also presented by Coach's Collectibles, your number one source for 100% authentic sports memorabilia and live public autograph events. Check them out online at coachescollectiblesny.com, and make sure you stay tuned later on in the program and find out about the Coach's Collectibles item of the week. And the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. Hi again, everyone. I'm Peter Schwartz. Welcome to the program on this Tuesday. 516-465-3990 is the number to call. Make sure you're subscribing to Gov's Comedy Club podcast channel on YouTube and follow Sports Bash Media on X, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also listen to Sports Bash now on Apple Music and Spotify. Today here on the show, a very special show here today as we remember legendary Jet center Nick Mangold, who passed away over the weekend at the age of 41 as a result of kidney disease. As you see, I'm wearing my Jet sweatshirt, and above me, hanging from one of the monitors, is my son Bradley's Nick Mangold jersey, which, as you can see, Mangold signed a number of years ago at a Jets event, and that is the reason why my son Bradley wears number 74. Most years since he was 6 years old, whenever that number was available, Bradley would wear number 74. And the funny part about that is, and we will talk a little bit more about this later in the show, there was one year in high school where Bradley couldn't get 74. And he didn't realize this. It didn't hit any of us until yesterday. But there was one year in high school, it was his freshman year in high school, where 74 was not available, and he wound up wearing number 55. And it just dawned on all of us, namely Bradley, yesterday, Nick Mangold wore 55 at Ohio State. So kind of a weird, kind of ironic twist in the whole thing. But obviously we're all saddened by the loss of Nick. And we're going to be talking later in the show. Very pleased to be joined by 2 of Nick's former teammates with the Jets. We'll hear from former Jets wide receiver Jerricho Cotchery, who has been on this show before, and also former Jets defensive lineman Mike DeVito. We'll check in our next segment. We'll also have What's Hot at TicketBash.com, the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day, and we'll have the Coach's Collectibles item of the week. I have obviously been thinking about this since we all got the news just before 12 o'clock on Sunday, when the Jets announced that Nick Mangold had passed away. Thinking of a way just to start talking about it. And sometimes when you have to talk about a subject like this, you write down some notes. Maybe you script it out. Sometimes it's easier for people to talk when they have a script in front of them. I didn't want to do that. I knew this was going to be tough. I found out just before, when the Jets sent out the announcement, and I didn't script anything out. I wanted this to come from the heart, and I think if you watched any of the coverage on Sunday when the news first broke, whether you were watching on ESPN or if you were watching on SNY you saw Willie Colon break down, who played with Nick Mangold. Bart Scott's on that show too, and he kind of held it together. But on ESPN, obviously, you saw the reaction from Rex Ryan, who coached Nick Mangold during his all 6 years that Nick would. Thank you, Tony. And of course, I have to get this in. Tony Walker, our great producer and the host of the Knock 'em Dead comedy show from 11 to 12:30 Monday through Friday. Great show beforehand earlier today. Very good topic of conversation. But you saw Rex Ryan's reaction, and he broke down. And it's easy just to say he was a New York Jet football player because that's how we knew him. That's how, if you were a college football fan, you knew Nick from his days at Ohio State. And the Jets had to make a trade to get an extra first-round pick in 2006 to draft him. Remember, the Jets had a high pick. I think it was 4 when they took D'Brickashaw Ferguson 4th overall. And then the Jets, in the John Abraham trade, got a pick later in the first round, and that's the pick that they used to select Nick Mangold out of Ohio State. And you think about it, the Jets, in a matter of a couple of hours, drafted 2 important pieces of the puzzle that would be part of that, that offensive line would be so good for so many years. A playoff appearance in 06, and then, the back-to-back AFC championship games in 10 and 11. And Nick was such an important part of that. He was the heart and soul of the Jets. I'll go so far as to say not just the Jets offensive line, but the whole Jets team. He was a larger than life personality. And I can speak to this in 2 different ways. I can speak to it as a fan of the Jets. He was easily one of the most popular players in Jets history, but I also got to cover him at different parts of his career. I was covering the Jets for ESPN the year that he was drafted. I came back to covering the Jets 2010, 11, and 12 when I went to WFAN, and I covered him those 3 years, including, and I'm sorry, I made a mistake on the years of the AFC Championship games. It was 2000. Technically, I was not wrong. It's 2010 was the end of the 2009 season, but you get what I'm talking about. But covered him during those 3 years, 10, 11, and 12. And he was just such a vibrant personality. And I remember so many great conversations with him in the locker room. And Jerricho Cotchery and Mike DeVito will even further attest to this when they join me later on in the show. But he was like a big teddy bear. You talk about a guy who's like he's this big giant football player, larger than life, and you don't want to mess with him, and just a warrior on the field. But you talk to him in the locker room, or you meet him at a Jets event if you're a fan, and he's just like the nicest guy in the world. And I think I forgot to send Tony this photo because I sent him a bunch of photos of Nick Mangold. But even and you watch this show, you know how much of an Islanders fan I am. But Nick Mangold used to show up at a lot of Ranger games all the time. And there's this unbelievable photograph of Nick wearing a Ranger jersey. I think it was a Henrik Lundqvist jersey. Behind the glass of the Anaheim Ducks, and you see him yelling at the other team. And that's just the guy he gravitated to New York. He's this Ohio kid that moved to New York. And remember, when he started his career, the Jets were still at Hofstra. So he was living out here on Long Island. I think he lived in Westbury before the Jets moved their operation out to New Jersey. And he was just such a happy-go-lucky guy. And to get to know him a little bit was a treat. To get to cover him and get his insights on football. Tony, did you find that picture? You did.
Your screen's on.
I'm a little bit delayed, but yeah, good job on that. He was just such a good dude. He really was. And I think that's been the most overriding thing that you have heard about him, since the news came of his passing, just how good of a person he was to his teammates. And you'll hear Jerricho and Mike talk about it later. But I remember having a conversation with him in the locker room one day at Florham Park when the Jets had moved out to New Jersey. And this is, I'm guessing this is during the 2010 season. So, and he, at that point, Bradley was not even 5 years old yet. So Nick was not his favorite player yet. Once he started playing center, he was. But my wife loved Nick Mangold too. Cheryl was always a fan, because he was kind of, and this goes back to my New York Dragons days. We had a center and an offensive lineman on the Dragons. His name was Marcus Owen, and his nickname was Snowball. because he had this, blonde hair, and he was big, and people would say, like, if he rolled down a hill, he would look like a snowball, rolling down the hill. And when the Jets drafted Nick Mangold, he was another one of these big, he was a big giant center, big guy, and my wife, very quickly, I think he was one of my wife's favorite players. So I remember having this conversation with Nick in the locker room. He had finished talking to a bunch of us about whatever game was coming up that week, and depending on your, I was talking to Tony about this before, depending on your, when you cover a team, you strike up, closer relationships with some players than others. And I thought I had a pretty good rapport with Nick, to the point where after the media scrum was over, you'd be able to talk to him a little bit about other things. And I said, I just want to tell you about something else. He goes, sure, how's it going? I'm like, everything is fine. I have to tell you, I've been meaning to tell you this. You are my wife's favorite player. And he's like, what? I said, I just wanted to tell you, my wife Cheryl, you're her favorite player. And he was like, wow, thank you so much. You tell your wife that I really, really appreciate that. And it was the truth. But he was just, again, like, I don't want to overuse the term good guy. It's not even good guy. He was a great guy. And his teammates loved him, and the fans loved him. And you still see to this day, if you roll up to MetLife Stadium for a Jets game, and you'll see jerseys of current players, whether it's Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, or Garrett Wilson, Quinnen Williams, but you will see MetLife Stadium filled with number 74 Mangold jerseys. Filled with them. Because he was that impactful on the team. And if you think about it, because the Jets don't really have that great of a history, let's be honest. I mean, one big year, 68, 69, to win the Super Bowl, and the Jets have been to 4 other AFC championship games, have never gotten back to the Super Bowl, and as we know now, they were 0-7 before winning Sunday in Denver, and haven't been to the playoffs since that 2010/11 season. So we're not talking about a huge, illustrious history of Jets football. But Nick Mangold is going to go down as one of the all-time great Jets. 11 seasons, all with the green and white. And he was an Ohio kid that fell in love with this area, and even when he retired, I remember it took him a couple of years after he had left the Jets, his contract was up, or the Jets had released him from his contract because he was injured. I think he had entertained some offers from other teams that it just never worked out. And I remember him saying at his retirement press conference that he was, very happy that he played his entire 11-year career with the Jets. And who does that anymore in this day of age in any sport? Who plays an entire career with one team? Think about it just here in New York. I mean, you got to, obviously Eli Manning played his whole career with the Giants. So did, Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms. But with the Jets, I mean, even Joe Namath finished his career with the Los Angeles Rams. The Yankees, guys like Jeter and Rivera, and Posada played their whole careers with the Yankees. Not all of those guys. I mean, Paul O'Neill came from the Reds. With the Mets, David Wright played his whole career with the Mets. But some of the greatest players in Met history either came from another team or would go on to another team. But Nick Mangold is a Jet through and through, an all-time Jet that gave his heart and soul to the Jets for more than a decade. He so badly, and he talked about this over and over again, so badly wanted to bring a Super Bowl to the Jets and their fans. And it just, not even Nick could make that happen because it just wasn't meant to be. But he will go down. I mean, he's already in the Jets Ring of Honor, and it didn't take long. The Jets gave out his 74 to Olu Fashanu last year. I wonder what was going through his mind as he got ready for the game. Obviously, he didn't really know Nick that great, although Nick was very much a presence at training camp and some other things. I wonder what was going through Fashanu's mind wearing 74 Sunday as the news broke of Mangold's passing. But some people even mentioned to me on social media, maybe now they should retire Nick 74. Does Olu go to the Jets and say, look, maybe I should wear a different number? I know this was my number at Penn State, but maybe I should wear a different number. And I don't know if that's even been in discussion yet, but he is in the Ring of Honor, and I'm sure the Jets starting this week, because they obviously didn't have time to do it on Sunday with the news breaking so fast, but I'm sure the Jets will have something on their uniform actually not this week, because the Jets have a bye week. So when they come back in a couple of weeks to play the Browns, the Jets will have something on their jersey to as a homage to Nick Mangold. But when you really think about this whole thing, you think about not football, but you think about his family. A wife and 4 kids he leaves behind. And if you watched his retirement press conference a few years ago, he spent the whole press conference holding his daughter. I don't know how old she was at the time, obviously a lot older now, but the whole time he spoke at his retirement press conference, he's holding his daughter in his hands, and she's wearing a Jet jersey that says Daddy 74 on it. Daddy's gone. And that's really what sucks about this whole thing, is that there's 4 kids that lost their father and a wife that lost her husband. Forget about football. It's irrelevant at this point. 41 years old. And it was, again, just like 2 weeks ago, there was a cry for help to try and find a donor. And he had this chronic disease, kidney disease. I guess it was diagnosed the year the Jets drafted him, 2006. And he got to this point. He knew at that, when he released the statement a couple of weeks ago, he thought he'd have more time before he had to do that. So obviously when he released that statement, there was a turn for the worse. I mean, I'm no doctor, but obviously there was a turn for the worse, and there was an expedited need to try and get him a donor, and it just didn't happen. So deepest condolences to his wife, his 4 kids, his family, the whole Jets organization, all of his teammates and friends, the Ohio State community too. Let's not forget, he was an impactful player at The Ohio State University. And they're in mourning about this too. So it's a huge loss for anybody who's associated with the Jets, the whole NFL world. And we've had a few former players, and this is not just Nick, but I remember Doug Martin, the former Buccaneers running back, passed away recently. There was a Baltimore Ravens player that just passed away. So the football community has lost a few important pieces over the last few weeks, and it's sad. But obviously for here in the New York area, the loss of Nick Mangold is going to resonate for a very long time. He was still very active in the community, and still very active around the Jets. You'd see him pop up at training camp. But man, it's just forget about football. Just think about his wife, think about his 4 kids, keep them in your prayers, and his family and friends. And last note, just to go back to football for a second. For some strange reason, while the Jets have not had the greatest history, they always seem to have had a really good center all the time. I mean, you look back on it, go back to the Super Bowl III team. John Schmidt was this Jets center on the Super Bowl III team, and he was amazing. And back then, long snapping wasn't specialized yet, and he was the long snapper. And then Joe Fields became the Jets center at one point, and he had a long run. It was a really good player. He was part of those Jet playoff teams in 81 and 82. And then Jim Sweeney, who we lost not long ago too, was a really good player on the Jets for a long time. A couple of playoff seasons with Jim Sweeney at center. And then when Bill Parcells took over the Jets, he brought in Kevin Mawai as a high-priced free agent. He knew how important the center was on the offensive line. And after the 2005 season, Mawai was banged up, and the Jets were going to let him go. Right after the 2005 season, he had suffered a season-ending injury, I think with like 4 or 5 games to go in the season. And the Jets, they were bringing in a new coach. Eric Mangini was the new coach, and kind of this new movement. And I remember the night that I was texting with him, with Kevin, saying goodbye. And I started to think to myself, well, how are the Jets going to find a center as good as Kevin Mawae was? And Kevin Mawae is now in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And April of 2006, the Jets draft Nick Mangold, and he goes on to 11 years, 7 Pro Bowls. And you can be as certain as you know what, as sure as you know what, that guy should be in Canton one day. He was that damn good. Not just on the field, but off the field. So enough of me talking about Nick Mangold, but I can talk about Nick Mangold for hours and hours and hours, and I don't know, I'll just go through boxes and boxes of tissues if I keep talking about it myself. Let's get a couple of guys coming up next. 2 players that played with him with the New York Jets, wide receiver Jerricho Cotchery, defensive lineman Mike DeVito. And as we go to break, we remember Nick Mangold, and you'll see a beautiful video that the New York Jets digital team put together to remember Nick Mangold. We'll be back with more Sports Bash right after this.
With the 29th choice in the 2006 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Nick Mangold, center from Ohio State.
I want to just retire as Nick Mangold, the football player. I want to retire as Nick Mangold, the New York Jet.
Putting on the jersey, was something very special to me, having that New York tag to it. There's the aura of New York City and what that means to the greatest city in the world. And to be able to go out and represent that city, that idea, every Sunday was definitely very special. And I like what I've done with the Jets, and I want to be known as only a Jet. And so that was important to me. The game of football it really has been kind of what has defined my life. Like there's things in football that translates to real world, showing up on time, discipline, teamwork, communication, those things all go together. And I think that's something that makes our sport very special, is that it has all those things, and that is a great groundwork as kids grow up and see, what they want to be in life. You can apply football and what goes on the field to just about any activity in life.
Over here? Daddy used to do that?
And this one is for you. Cheers to the fans. You guys have been with me, supported this team. God bless you all, and go Jets!
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com and the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund. I'm Peter Schwartz, and again, kudos to the New York Jets for putting together that beautiful video honoring the late Nick Mangold, and you can catch that video if you want to watch it again. Maybe we'll play it again in the show later in the show, but you can catch it on all the Jets' social media channels. They did a wonderful job with that video, and this is a special edition of Sports Bash as we remember the late legendary Jets center Nick Mangold, who passed away over the weekend at the age of 41 as a result of kidney disease. And I couldn't think of a better way to honor him than to bring in on the show a couple of his former teammates. Later on in the program, we'll hear from former Jets defensive lineman Mike DeVito. But right now, we welcome in someone who played on the offensive side of the ball with Nick Mangold for a bunch of seasons and was a teammate of him, and can speak firsthand about what kind of, not just player he was, but what kind of man Nick Mangold was. And we welcome in former Jets wide receiver Jerricho Cotchery. Jerricho, it's Peter. Sorry to talk to you under these circumstances, but thanks for joining me here on the show.
Hey, Peter, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Tough couple of days for anybody who was part of the Jets family, whether part of the organization, played for them, rooted for them, covered them. Nick was one special person. When you think of his passing over the weekend, first of all, what was your reaction, and just your thoughts on losing Nick at 41 years old.
Yeah, I just really couldn't believe it, when I saw it. You just kind of go through, all of the images in your head about the big smiling face and, just the gentle giant that he was. And, I just really couldn't believe it in that moment, and just really saddened, by the news. And I just kind of thought about his family in that moment, because he's so young, man. And it was just a hard thing to even, grapple with.
Had you stayed in touch with Nick over the years? What was the last time you talked to him, and did he seem like he was in good spirits when you did?
Just really him just showing. I hadn't spoken with him over the phone, and just through, just the casual contacts, online, just kind of like all of us have been over the past, 10 plus years. Everybody's kind of spread abroad the country. But him just kind of showing support, when I got the head coaching job down at Limestone University, and, and also when he got inducted, into the Ring of Honor, just really just kind of talking about, the player and the man that he was, from day one. He just really kind of showed, his appreciation for the words, that I gave in that moment. And so just really through that. But it's like the brotherhood, even if you don't, speak, every day or every week, is you just hit it off every time you speak. And it was no different with Nick.
Talk to me about Nick, the teammate, and how that resembled Nick, the human being, because as you know, I was around that team for a few years, and you can see just what kind of impact he had, not just on the field, but off the field. But how much of Nick on the field mirrored the type of person he was off the field?
Oh man, so many words for that one. He embodied, what he was, his position was, and you just kind of think about the guy that got everyone in the huddle, just rallied the troops, got everyone in the huddle, and we all kind of come together in that moment. He was one of those uniting forces, and just in a team sport, man, he certainly was the ultimate teammate, cared about his teammates, would do anything for them, and always kept the mood light, but anytime he stepped into in between the lines, it was real, so it was just an honor to play with a guy like that. But the type of man that he was, just so down to earth, and he's one of those guys where, you're one of those kids that look up to him and you're a big fan of him. He is the fans' dream, the little fans' dream, because you can approach him and he will treat you, like he's known you all the while. And, and so it's just really, really difficult, man, to just kind of even think about him not being here.
We have a few minutes left with former Jets wide receiver Jerricho Cotchery as he joins us here on Sports Bash as we remember the late Nick Mangold. And when you think back to your time with Nick and the Jets, man, there were some really good moments with him anchoring that offensive line, the back-to-back trips to the AFC Championship game, and just his will to make, the Jets a playoff contender. And, when you think back to those years you spent with him, how special were they just to watch him be the heart and soul of that offense?
Yeah, I mean, he was an instant leader from day one, just wise beyond years. As soon as he stepped into that starting role when Trey T got hurt in the offseason and OTAs, we knew we were in good hands. It wasn't, the job wasn't big for him or anything. He was an instant leader from day one, understood the game well. And just one funny story, we were playing the Dolphins on, Christmas night, and we had to go down and score in a little 2-minute type drill situation where Leon Washington juked a lot of people. But during that timeout, he was one of those guys, as Chad Pennington was coming back to the huddle, wanted to give Chad, and that this is his rookie year. Wanted to give Chad the scenario. Look, this how many timeouts we got. Just this is what to expect and all of that. and Chad just quickly said to him, "Oh, hold on, bro, smiling. This is not my first rodeo. But Nick was all over it. Just making sure that we were ready to go and." But yeah, he was just an unbelievable guy to play with, an incredible player, and ground and pound, and it starts with the center position, and he was central to it all.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And last thing for you, Jerricho, when you look up in the stands, even back then, and even now to this day, I talked about this on my Open before. He's clearly one of the most popular players in Jet history, and the fans always loved him. And even to this day, like if you walk into MetLife Stadium for a Jets game, you have always seen consistently a lot of number 74 jerseys. Did you sense that through your time with the Jets playing with him that he quickly became a fan favorite?
Yeah, because he embodied what it means to be a Jet, and he was going to be a gritty guy that scratch and claw for everything that he got. He was going to represent, the green and white well, and he was a down-to-earth guy. It was just, he was one of those guys that was just going to lay it on the line, loyal to the team and all of those things. And so, yeah, you quickly saw that, an unbelievable player. And so he was easy. He was easy to root for. He wasn't going to be a guy that was going to let you down.
No question about it. And as I say goodbye to you, I know you were the head coach of Limestone, and unfortunately that school went through some issues, and now you're the assistant head coach, passing game coordinator for North Greenville. So congratulations on that, and best of luck on your continued success on the coaching side of things.
I appreciate it, man. And I thank you for allowing me to be on and speak a few words about everybody's favorite teammate.
Absolutely. And next time we talk, Jerricho, it'll be under better circumstances. We'll talk a little bit more Jet football and under brighter skies.
All right, looking forward to it.
Thanks, Jerricho. Jerricho Cotchery, former Jets wide receiver, joining us here on the show. So we go from one of Nick Mangold's former teammates on the Jets to another. And while they weren't together on the field during games at the same time, I'm sure they had their battles in practice, because our next guest was on the defensive side of the ball. Former Jets defensive lineman Mike DeVito now joins us here on Sports Bash. Mike, it's Peter. Sorry it's under these circumstances, but thank you for joining me here on the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. It's an honor to be with here and talk about Nick.
It's obviously a huge loss. We've talked about it on the show, and I know we texted a little bit about it. Just your thoughts when you heard the news, and obviously we heard a couple of weeks ago that Nick needed a donor, and I think we were all stunned by how quickly this happened. What were your thoughts when you heard the news on Sunday?
Well, I think like many guys have expressed, it's absolutely shocking, and I think obviously Nick being 41 years old and having a young family, that is obviously incredibly shocking and incredibly tragic. And then I think about Nick as a player. And as a teammate. And the one thing that really defined him, and this makes it all the more shocking, was, this is a guy that is as tough as it comes. Nick just, you always knew it didn't matter if he had a high ankle sprain, a labrum tear, whatever crazy injury he had, he was going to be playing, and he was going to be playing at an all-pro level, and he was going to be leading. And so you think this guy's invincible. So you heard that a couple of weeks ago and thought, well, it's Nick. It could be anything. He's going to crush it. And so because he's just tough through and through. So it's hard to fathom that we're here right now, and it's just incredibly tragic. And what a loss for not just Jets Nation, for our team, for our organization, but just for the world. This is a human being who made the world truly a better place.
I don't want this to come off being well, it is a positive thing about Nick, because he was able to reinvent himself after he was done playing, and he got into cooking a lot, and he wound up popping up on some of these, cooking shows and talk shows to talk about. Obviously, he came out with that barbecue sauce. And I would imagine he was just kind of like that as a player, just a bubbly guy. Could you sense being his teammate that once he was done with football, he was going to be able to go into doing other things? Was he that type of guy on and off the field that you could see from him?
Yeah. I think there's two things to say there, and that's such a great observation. And so first, when I think about Nick and the type of person he was, and really being a world changer. I mean, this is a guy that really made so many people's lives so much better. And it wasn't just because he was a great football player or, and a great person in that organization and on that field, but you see the cooking shows and the commercials that he's in and doing the stuff for Jets media and the tailgates and how they're following him around. And what I love about it, and you see it on repeat now, the way he interacted with people, right? And it wasn't a shtick for those media, whatever he was doing. That's genuinely who Nick was. Yeah. He's just such a happy, positive person that cares about people, that's interested in you individually. And so he changed the world, not only in a big picture sense with everything he did through football, but also just the individual lives that he affected. Because to have somebody like that who's an all-pro, future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest football players ever, and he'll just, chop it up and talk to anybody and get out, and it's like, being around a regular person, and he's just funny and laughing. That's an amazing quality that Nick had. And I love seeing that. That's genuinely him. And then as a former teammate on the field, having a person like that, and Nick was really a paradox in that sense. Like, here's this dude that we said is the toughest dude out there, tough as nails, looks the part, gritty, playing through injury, always burying his guys, leader, vocal and otherwise. I mean, just the toughness through and through. But then there's so many memories of him during practice or during training camp, during these really difficult times, right? I remember having this conversation with my son recently. He said, "Dad, was football fun?" And I said, "Oh yeah, it was fun." And then I said, I just totally lied to him. Like 99% of the time, football is miserable, right? It's the 1% of the time is so good that it makes up for the fact that 99% of the time is so hard. But when you have a guy like Nick in the locker room where you're going through two-a-days and you're sweating and dying and you're struggling, and Nick will crack a joke or be smiling or, come and say something funny and get everybody laughing. And he would do it, constantly. You could always, in fact, not so much so that you would look for him when things were tough, because you knew, okay, if I see Nick, I'm going to be smiling and laughing about something. I mean, so he really did embody both of those worlds in such a special way. And I was lucky to call him a teammate.
Along those lines, and I don't ever remember seeing this commercial, but there was a commercial. And by the way, if you're not following on X, Twitter, New York Jets history, there's a guy who has this Twitter account, New York Jets history, and he's always putting up these great videos and still shots of great moments in Jets history. And he's done that in the last couple of days after the passing of Nick Mangold. But there's this video that surfaced, a commercial where Thomas Jones it's something about training camp, and Thomas Jones is coming out and he's getting these phone messages on his cell phone. It sounds like people want to buy his car, and he couldn't figure out why people wanted to buy his car. And he gets to his car, and there are these, like, it's covered in for sale signs, and he looks at it, he goes, "Mangold." And then you look around and you see Nick dancing before he gets into his car, like, "Ha, I did that to you." So I'm guessing, like, what you're trying to tell me about Nick was that even though that was not real, that commercial, that was what Nick was all about.
I had to ask myself, I wonder if that is real, because that's exactly if it's not real, he certainly came up with the idea. Like, I would not be surprised if that was Nick's idea for that commercial. I mean, that's exactly something he would do. I mean, perfect example. That's exactly something he would do. And he would do it consistently all the time. Yeah. And so just like, those are the kind of things that, oh man, you just never forget. It's so special having a teammate like that. I mean, he's really unique in that sense, where he would do that dance that he did in the commercial, or just, things like that all the time. I mean, he was such a funny soul.
He really was. And the times I got to talk to him, they were really cool. We have a few minutes left with former Jets defensive lineman Mike DeVito as we honor and pay tribute to the late, it's so weird saying that now and so sad, the late Jets center Nick Mangold. You touched on, Mike, on practice before, and obviously when I covered the team, like, you only were able to really see 15 or 20 minutes of practice. So we didn't really get to see if there were like these big battles that went on. You never really got a chance to see it. But aside from the funny part of Nick, and you're on the defensive side of the ball, he's on the offensive side of the ball. Did you ever have like a memorable battle with him during practice that you can remember? Do you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, sure. So my second year, I had made my way up rotating with the starters. And inside, so I was playing, at that point it was a head up nose. But then when Rex got there the next year, it was a 3 technique or a shade on the center. And then so I say all that to say a lot of the work that I did was against guard, center, guard, right? I wasn't really out against the tackles. So that is, in there with Nick. And I remember we'd run these pod drills in training camp where you'd have guard, center, guard. And one of the first times I went against Nick, I was I think I probably was head up. And I was great off the ball, like firing out of my hips, getting guys locked out. And I remember thinking, wow, this is Nick Mangold. Like, here we go. And we're doing this pod drill in training camp. And I get off the ball and I lock out and I feel great. And I'm like, yeah, I am like, I can do it. I can play this level. This is as good as it gets. And I'm playing. And then all of a sudden I sort of, the play's done and I take stock on where I'm at. And I'm 7 yards off the football backwards. And I'm just like, and this is a story I tell everybody when they ask me about Nick. That's when I knew, like, wow, this guy really is special. Because I thought I was winning, but his technique was so good that he was underneath me and moving me backwards the entire rep. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is so bad because, I can't think of a time that I thought I won a rep. And I actually had lost in such, poor fashion. So he's on the field, that offensive line led by Nick Mangold that we got to go against those years in New York. They were incredible. And playing against Nick,
he made you a better player.
So much better. Sunday was so easy. There wasn't one center in the league that I went against. That's normally a position where you got guys covering for you, right? The guards, how often you hear offensive line coaches talking about how the guards got to help the center out so he's not on an island. That's not the case with Nick. Nick could drive you and dump you no problem by himself. I mean, he was such a special player, and it really was this subtle perfection, this subtle technique that you're just like, wow, this guy's incredible. Just a fantastic football player.
And you saw, and I talked about this with Jerricho earlier in the show, you saw how quickly he became a fan favorite. I mean, every Jet fan loved him. You still see people with 74 jerseys. In fact, I'm sure you see over my shoulder, that's my son Bradley's Nick Mangold jersey. That's why he wears 74 since he's 6 years old playing football. So could you sense that developing pretty fast? How big of a fan favorite he had become during his time with the Jets?
Yeah. I think, like Jerricho said, he embodies the New York Jets. I mean, when I think New York Jets, I think Nick Mangold, and I don't say that just because of where we are right now. If you would have asked me 2 months ago, who do you think of when you think of the New York Jets? I think of Nick Mangold. I mean, he just embodies the green and white. And, probably my favorite memory of him, I'm wearing the hat. I don't know if the audio or the video is live, but
it's video.
My favorite memory of him is when we were getting ready to play the Cowboys on the September 11th, 2011 10-year anniversary game, and him running out of the tunnel with this hat on, with the American flag. And I was just like, oh yeah, we're gonna win this damn game.
Yeah.
We're gonna win this game, but that he is New York. He is New York. He is the New York Jets, and he always will be. He always will be.
One last thing before I let you go, Mike, and life after football has been pretty good for you as well, as you're back with your alma mater, University of Maine, as director of player development and alumni relations. How are you enjoying your life now? Still kind of involved in football a little bit too.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy it. Thank you for mentioning that. It really, you miss the game so much. You miss the guys so much. And so this has allowed me to feel like I'm a part of it again and be around younger players and hopefully act as a mentor for them. But the selfish reason, is that I get to feel like I'm a part of it again. And it's been so much joy in that Coach Jordan Stevens, our head coach, and the university organization has welcomed me in to be a part of it. It's an honor.
Mike, I can't thank you enough under difficult circumstances. for joining me here on the show. I always enjoyed our conversations when I covered the team and you were playing, and it was good to catch up. I wish it was under different circumstances, but let's definitely try to make this happen again under brighter skies somewhere down the road. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's really an honor that you had me come on here to talk about Nick. So I'm really grateful. I appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike, and enjoy. Thank you so much. Mike DeVito, former Jets defensive lineman, joining us to talk about the unfortunate, untimely, however you want to call it, passing of former Jets center Nick Mangold, who passed away over the weekend at the age of 41 as a result of kidney disease. So we thank Jerricho Cotchery and Mike DeVito for joining me here on the program. Still more to come. When we come back, we're going to have What's Hot at ticketbash.com, the SportsBash Media poll question of the day, and the Coaches Collectibles item of the week. More coming up right after this. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention SportsBash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage.
In 1982, the Marty Lyons Foundation began with a single heartfelt mission: to bring moments of joy and hope to critically ill children by granting wishes that make their dreams come true. Since that day, we have touched the lives of over 8,500 families, raising over $43 million to grant wishes that offer a beacon of light in their darkest times. These precious wishes cost an average of $6,700 each, and your support is crucial to our mission. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. And with 76 cents of every dollar going directly to supporting our families, you can rest assured your support truly changes lives. The Marty Lyons Foundation operates 11 chapters in 14 states now, working tirelessly to reach as many children as we can. This dedication goes hand in hand with our commitment to transparency and accountability, earning us top ratings on Charity Navigator, Great Nonprofits, and Candid, which underscores our dedication to those we serve. The Marty Lyons Foundation grants wishes to children ages 3 to 17. And what really makes this foundation so special is our willingness to grant not only a first wish, but also consider a second wish to a child who continues to battle a life-threatening illness. We stand by these children, offering them hope and strength through the power of dreams, giving our children the courage to wish for more.
What's your purpose in life? Is your purpose in life to live in the big house and drive the nice car? No. Your purpose in this life is to make it a little bit better for those that follow and realize that we live for today to see a better tomorrow.
Visit MartyLyonsFoundation.org to learn more and get involved.
That was a little awkward there. Welcome back to Sports Bash. I was texting Mike DeVito to thank him for coming on the show, and I thought I had some more time, and there you go. I get caught on my phone when we come back from a break. But I thanked both Jerricho Cotchery and Mike DeVito for hopping on and joining us here on the program, again, as we continue to remember former Jet center Nick Mangold, who passed away over the weekend at the age of 41. Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by ticketbash.com and the Ryan Anthony Heating and Air Conditioning Service. Some more business to take care of before we say goodbye to you in about 13 minutes or so. What's hot at ticketbash.com? On the sports calendar, the Nets host the Hawks at Barclays Center on Wednesday night, October 29th. That's tomorrow, if you're watching the show on Tuesday. The Giants host the 49ers at MetLife Stadium this Sunday, November 2nd. The Jets, of course, are on the bye week. Also this Sunday, the Islanders host the Blue Jackets at UBS Arena, and the Knicks host the Bulls at the Garden. Upcoming shows and concerts: Sabrina Carpenter is at the Garden tonight, October 28th, as well as tomorrow, October 29th. John Legend will be at Barclays Center on November 4th. The Jonas Brothers are at UBS Arena November 19th, and they'll make a return trip on December 21st. Get the best seats at the best prices with no service fees at ticketbash.com. It is time for the Coach's Collectibles item of the week, and as we remember, Nick Mangold and also celebrate the Jets' first win of the season on Sunday in Denver, we have a Jets Breece Hall framed 11x14 autographed photo. It's a great piece. It's beautiful, framed and autographed, and looks fantastic. It'll be a great addition to any Jet fans' collection. Think about this also when you look at that Breece Hall autograph picture, and think about the game that he had on Sunday in Cincinnati. In Sunday's win over the Bengals, Breece Hall had 2 touchdown runs, and he also had that touchdown pass to Mason Taylor on the running back option, which was an incredible play, and he completes that for a touchdown. And how about this? And this will make your hair crawl, because it certainly made mine, and I don't have much of it left. 18 carries for 133 yards in the game. That's an average of 7.4 yards. 7.4. 74. Nick Mangold's number. And the Jets had to come back in the second half to win that game, and there's no question in my mind the Jets had some divine intervention in that game on Sunday, coming back 7.4 yards a carry for number 74, Nick Mangold. Think about it. Isn't it strange how these things happen sometimes with numbers? And sometimes it can seem like it's just, that's the way it happened. But sometimes you just get the feeling that there's an effect on these things in life. And that's just too stunning to me to see that was Breece Hall. He's the star of the game, 2 touchdown runs and a touchdown pass, and he averages 7.4 yards on the ground. Just, amazing. Coach's Collectibles, your number one source for 100% authentic sports memorabilia and live public autograph events. For more information, visit coachescollectiblesny.com. And we'll stick on the Jets theme for the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. We post a poll question every Tuesday and Thursday on the Sports Bash Media X/Twitter page. And here's the question today. The Jets are 1-7 after their first win of the season. The trading deadline is coming up this week. You have a new regime in place. You would imagine that Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn will want to try and bring in more of their own players in the upcoming season. So here is the question. You think about players the Jets could trade. There's 2 that come to mind that have been talked about. One is Breece Hall, and one is Quinnen Williams. And here's the question. Should the Jets trade Breece Hall and Quinnen Williams at the trading deadline? And we have 4 choices. Either trade both of them, just trade Breece, just trade Quinnen, or keep both of them. And we always go around the room. I'll start with Tony. The Jets are 1-7. You probably can get a little something for both of these guys. Do you trade them and just try and refresh for next year? Or do you keep them?
I would like to keep them, but I do think you could trade them and get some good stuff.
My choice is to just trade Quinnen.
Oh, okay.
I would keep Breece Hall because I know you can always find a good running back in the draft or as a free agent, but when you have someone special like Breece Hall that had a game like he had on Sunday, I would try and figure out a way to get him signed to an extension. So, by the way, before the show, I checked the numbers because I posted the question this morning. 42% of Jet fans say trade both of them. 33% say just trade Breece. 10% say just trade Quinnen. And 15% say keep both of them. So 85% of Jet fans think they should make some kind of move involving those players. But yeah, I would keep Breece. I know he's had a couple of injuries here, but he's still got some pretty good wheels on him, and I think that's a piece that you build that offense around, and I would keep Breece Hall around. The 4th annual Marty Lyons Foundation Evening of Thanks Gala is on Thursday, November 13th at the Bourne Mansion in Oakdale. And for more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. It's a great event. My family and I have been to it a few times, and I know they got some special things planned for this year's event. So you want to go online, martylyonsfoundation.org, get some more information about the event. And we're going to talk more about that event in the upcoming weeks. We hope to have Marty on the show, or perhaps Kenny Schroy. We're efforting to get one or both of those guys on the show. Kenny Schroy helped Marty launch the foundation over 40 years ago. So we'll see. We'll make the right phone calls, the right connections, and see if we can make that happen. We have a good show coming up for you on Thursday. This Thursday, October 30th, here on Sports Bash. We're right in the middle of the World Series, and we're also getting ready for the offseason. And it should be an eventful offseason for the Yankees and the Mets. And we'll be joined on Thursday by Kelly Franco, the host of the very popular 3-Inning Fan podcast. So we'll talk to Kelly about the World Series, and we'll see how it shakes out after last night's 18-inning game. Freddie Freeman gets the home run to win it in the bottom of the 18th inning, a 6.5-hour extravaganza. I did not stay up to watch it. I had to get my beauty sleep, as much beauty sleep as I can get. But now the Dodgers have a 2-1 series lead. So we'll talk to Kelly about the World Series. We'll see where we are on Thursday, where the World Series is. We'll get her thoughts on that and the Yankees and Mets. And I think I mentioned this on the show last week, but Kelly and I have something in common. We both have a mixed marriage. I believe she's a Yankee fan and her husband is a Mets fan. I think I have it the right way. And of course, I'm a Yankee fan and my wife Cheryl is a Mets fan. And you know, you learn to still love each other despite your differences. Thank God my wife and I were not together during the 2000 World Series, because that might have been a little ugly, but I'm sure we would have gotten through it. But it's an interesting dynamic, and you have some fun with it, and we'll talk to Kelly about that as well on Thursday. And I just, before I wrap it up, I know we have a few minutes left that we can play with here, but this show completely dedicated to Nick Mangold, and not to belabor the point, I just want to hammer it home in case you didn't get that feeling from me or our guests on the show to this point. This is a really sad, huge loss for anybody with the Jets. When you just think about what kind of a person he was, what kind of vibrant personality he was, how great of a family man he was, and we found that out as the years went on. I don't want to sound disrespectful, but it just sucks. It really does. To lose someone like that, 41 years old, with a wife and 4 kids, it's just sad. In a lot of ways, it's wrong. And you wish that something could have been done to help him, but he just ran out of time. And I will always cherish the opportunity to interview him and talk to him as much as I was able to do when I covered the Jets. I know my wife and I cherish the fact that he served as tremendous inspiration for Bradley, who continues to wear 74 in college to this day, and even my younger son, Jared. I mean, he didn't know much about Nick Mangold's career, but as a diehard Jets fan, he quickly learned about it, and from me, from Bradley, from my wife, and obviously this hit him hard as well, because he was, Nick Mangold was such a presence in our house, jerseys and cards and starting lineup figures. I don't think, do we have a Nick Mangold McFarland figure in the house? No, we have a Kevin Mawai one, but there's Nick Mangold stuff all over our house. It's a tremendous loss. It's sad. It's devastating. Any phrase you want to put on it. But again, deepest condolences to his wife, his 4 kids, the whole Jet organization. And if you were touched at all by Nick Mangold, whether you were a fan or just admiring him from afar, just think about his family. And I did also want to make one other announcement, not relative. Well, it is relative to what we're talking about, but not relative really to the show per se. But my good friend Matt O'Leary, who does a Jet podcast, and he's a presence at games and on social media. Check him out on social media, because he has a store online. And I meant to send Tony a picture of this, and I just didn't do it in time. But he's got a sweatshirt, a T-shirt, and a hat with a 74 on it. Forever Nick, and 100% of the net proceeds are going to go towards the American Kidney Foundation. I think I have that right. I think it's the American Kidney Foundation for kidney research. And so you can go online and order a sweatshirt. They're beautiful shirts that have a 74 on them, and there's a hat as well. And again, all the net proceeds go for the American Kidney Foundation, and all in memory and honor of Nick Mangold. And I think I said it with Mike DeVito. It's weird to say he's gone. Just a larger than life personality and person, a great man. And I think I'm going to start crying if I talk any more about it. Again, there's already plenty of tears that have been shed over this. So that will do it for today's edition of Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com and Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service. Thanks to my guests, Jerricho Cotchery and Mike DeVito, for coming on to talk about Nick Mangold. Thanks to Tony Walker and everyone here at Governors. Thanks to our social media coordinator, Connor Kalb. Sports Bash is sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, by Coaches Collectibles, and by the Marty Lyons Foundation. Thanks to everyone for watching. Sports Bash is back on Thursday at 1 p.m. Have a great day, everyone. And Nick, we're going to miss you.